Greetings.
Yeah, Happy New Year. First time we've been back. We tried to do something, what was last Friday?
Yeah, ran into technical difficulties.
Yeah. So
So I had no audio.
we decided it was a fitting end of the year. We gave up.
To try to tell us something. We pay attention to those kind of messages.
Yeah. And then today it's all systems are go. So we're good. We're in the new year, and this is what, the fourth? Yes. And we're going to talk about beginning ACT matrix training, beginning your journey from mechanism to contextualism. And we've got a couple of people on with us. And
there's Anders. Happy New Year to you too, Anders.
We really important what this is, and almost no one knows about it.
Yeah.
So I guess we can get started.
Well, we do a little housekeeping first.
Yeah, that's right. Phil does the housekeeping.
Let me do some housekeeping for you, folks. For those of you who are coming on and are new, first thing that we ask that you do will be to go up top and click the follow button. And that way you'll get notifications when we are coming on and doing our crowdcasts. Then you want to run down to the bottom, lower right, and just like Anders and Paul have been doing, put in your name and where you're from. So Paul is over there in London. Anders is Denmark. Boy, they're practically like right next to each other, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just about. And they're standing saying hello. Very cool. Nice. Just like that, folks.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you want is just come over to that really long green button we have there. And our special, what we're promoting these days is if you were to click there, you could find out how you can get ready for ACT Matrix certification, if you so desire ACT Matrix certification. It is not required to do the ACT Matrix in any way, shape, or form, but some people find it useful. So if you click that green button, you'll find out how you can get ready for that, and at the same time, be able to have access to earn 19 continuing education credits that are approved through the American Psychological Association.
Yes.
A way cool deal.
It is.
So check it out if you have the opportunity.
Yes.
And I think, Kevin, with that, we have taken care of our housekeeping, and we're ready to go.
Good. Well, I don't know. This is one of those things. I think most people think of everything. Well, it's mechanism is our predominant view. And so that's why we have all these checklists and
protocols
and this and that and the other to determine mental illness or whatever, and then how to fix it. So follow this 12-point checklist, and well,
bring a diagnosis.
Well, a diagnosis and not really a diagnosis, and for sure not really a cure.
No,
not even close.
No.
And so it's based on that notion that you can, take a disorder like depression. We'll call it depression, and we'll do some mumbo jumbo and we'll fix it. And well, that almost never happens. It just doesn't, not even with medications and stuff. But that doesn't stop people from continuing the illusion that it could be fixed. Okay, so that's mechanism. So and we're in the Western world, maybe someplace else, mechanism isn't the predominant philosophy. But in the West, in the United States, it is, absolutely is, and it's cause and effect. You can sort of trace the real origins of it to the Industrial Revolution and cogs and levers and wheels and stuff, and you pull this lever and it causes this effect, right? And so they transferred that kind of thinking to humans. inside humans. And as a matter of fact, Freud's notions are really hydraulic,
Oh yeah,
meaning that if you release the pressure of catharsis, uh, ah,
relief.
relief, and it's curative, which it wasn't, but nevertheless, this is people applying a way of thinking. Now, here you go. Mechanism is great for cars and for surgeries.
Oh man, I'm a big fan of mechanism. So that kind of stuff.
There is all kinds of stuff where you can follow a checklist and make sure things are done right, and maybe get a legitimate, really good, solid fix of something. With a car particularly, but even with some human stuff, you get right up next to it's fixed. It's taken care of.
Well, you get a pacemaker, and then now your ticker's working better.
But then we go to the mental side of things, and that just all falls apart because depression doesn't fix because one of your loved ones will die or something, and you're depressed.
Yep.
And it just comes back. It naturally comes back. Anxiety is built into us so we avoid dangers. So if you get rid of all your anxiety, you'll more than likely die in pretty short order.
Yeah, you're ill prepared for life at that point.
You're right. Our ancestors are our ancestors because of anxiety.
Yeah.
This is, they could say, gee, I got a bad feeling about going up there.
We're here on account of anxiety.
And they go, hey, it's just too strong. I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah.
Well, and then somebody down the line said, F it, I'm going out anyway. And they got eaten. Yeah. And their genes went poof.
They didn't live.
Now, if you never go out, you never get food and you die too. So we are this interesting mix of just enough anxiety to keep us safe for the most part, but not so much that we don't go out and venture and get food. That's the basics of it. So my point in it doesn't go anywhere. So why is this important? Well, Steve Hayes and company and others looked at it as that if you look at humans from a mechanistic point of view, especially the mental side of humans from a mechanistic point of view, because it's going to result in, well, let's just use the word failure. Yeah. It's not going to work. It will not work.
Nope.
Just because of what I said. Depression comes back. Anxiety comes back. Your imposter syndrome comes back.
Yep.
It just keeps coming back. And so you'll get into this frustrating loop. I got to fix it. I got to fix it. It comes back. I got to fix it. It comes back. And it can be really troubling to people a lot. And it wastes a whole lot of time and money and all kinds of resources in these loops of trying to fix things that can't be fixed. And it gets damaging too. So part of the reason this came about is like from Steve Hayes's look at cognitive behavioral therapy. And so it can become very onerous and judgmental, and homework. They give homework and then the person doesn't do the homework and they get basically reprimanded for not doing the homework. Well, that's just not, it just leads to all kinds of bad stuff. And it's certainly not a great way for a clinician to have a warm, fuzzy career for 25 or 30 years.
Yeah, messes with the therapeutic relationship.
And just really mucks it up. And it really puts it just adds to your sense of failure. Right. If you're a patient or either one, I keep trying and it's not working. I keep trying and it's not working. And that's just damaging in and of itself. Well, there's lots of other stuff, but that's the biggie. So it's like, well, how do you get around that? Well, the way you get around that is you change your philosophy. Well, you say, gee, how do we do that? Well, it's probably not that easy. It takes practice, since you had to
Yeah,
grow up and practice to have the
to make it happen.
mechanistic point of view. So in ACT, when you do ACT, it switches you over to what it's supposed to switch you over to, the functional contextual point of view. And you said, well, what is that? Well, that simply means that instead of looking at yourself or another human being mechanistically as a machine, okay, instead of doing that, you look at them in terms of there's the person, they're behaving, and the function of that behavior in this moment is what? What's the function of it? And everybody goes, oh yeah, why am I doing what I'm doing right now?
Good question.
And that's the difference, folks. Notice we've just asked a contemplative question, and that in no way, shape, nor form leads one down the path of, well, I got to fix something. It's not fix it. It's let's take a look at it. Bill and I have thousands of hours of experience with this, and it turns out that indeed, when people look at themselves this way, from this functional contextual point of view way, they indeed, well, feel better about themselves.
Yeah, they do. Even when they have anxiety and depression.
And that's it. And you say, well, do you still get depressed? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Still get anxious? Yeah. How do you feel about yourself? Oh, a little better, you know. It's okay.
You're doing better.
So we've taken this fix it off the table and inserted this contemplative look at the self or somebody else. I mean, what do you mean? Well, if I see somebody else behaving, instead of saying, oh, I know what caused them to behave that way. You know, what we loved to say when we were kids, you know, their mother was frightened by a cat or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
It's how I was raised.
Whatever. You know, but you're not looking for cause. You say, well, what's the function of that behavior in that context? I see them running. You go, okay. Well, if they're running in the Olympics in the 100-yard dash, bingo, there's that function for the running. They're running down Times Square in New York City. We wonder, what's the running about? What's the function of the running? Are they running to, and here's a biggie, are they running to something or they're running away from something, right? And for the 100-yard dash person, boy, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're scared to death of being a failure, so they're running like crazy to win, so they're not a failure. Or maybe they really, really want to get that gold medal, so they're running towards something. And maybe it's a little bit of both. And notice now we're analyzing human behavior. We're talking about human behavior, and we're just taking a look at it. For lack of a better term, we're philosophizing about it, right? And we're not going to break into, oh, but what can we do to fix it?
Right.
And what you can, but just know that if you switch over to what are we going to do to fix it, you've just switched in the mechanism.
Now you're back.
And that's part of it, is know when you're going and using mechanism, and know when you're doing functional contextualism. And if this seems difficult to you, it's not. Don't just do the matrix a whole bunch. And functional contextualism will show up all by itself.
Yes.
Now, as long as you don't think, or you're not approaching it as that the matrix is going to fix something.
Yeah.
Or that ACT writ large is going to fix something. It's not. It's not written. It's literally based on a philosophy of not fixing nothing. That's not the point of it. The point is a contemplative practice, really. Gee, what are the functions of my behavior from moment to moment?
What am I up?
It's a fascinating look at yourself, rather than, oh, I'm doing this because of something that happened to me in childhood.
Right.
My PTSD made me do it. My depression made me do it.
My bad anxiety made me do it.
My bad anxiety made me do it. Then Phil threw it in, bad anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Because I hear that a lot. I have really bad anxiety.
The bad anxiety, well, that's judgmental. And now we're going to be very careful in not judging from this functional contextual point of view. Because if we judge, well, it just mucks things up. It interferes with your ability to simply look at your behaviors.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at your behavior, you're not judging it as good or bad. You're just behaving for some function. That's neither good or bad. That takes practice too. But that's what we're practicing, and that's what the whole of ACT is about. Now, Phil, I will ask you a question. How many people do you think pick up an ACT book and then go to an ACT conference and then start using ACT? Really think about switching their philosophical point of view.
Oh, well, they might think about it for a nanosecond. They might.
Right. They probably won't. It'll never be mentioned.
Fold it into a mechanistic way of looking at things is what they do. In my opinion.
And that's what happens, folks.
Yeah.
We're the ACT Matrix guys. I'm an ACT guy. I do it. I know this. I read it all the time. That people, even the Matrix, they take the Matrix and they try to make it into something mechanistic to fix something. And I'm philosophical about that. Like, okay, you do whatever, but that's not what it's about. That wasn't the purpose of it at all. The purpose was literally a functional contextual look at a human. And so when you do it, now you're saying, well, who's important to me? Lower right quadrant of the matrix. Who's important to me?
Right here.
Okay, I got that. Okay, what kind of yucky stuff shows up inside of me? Listen to the language. Shows up. Across all of ACT, you will see that those two words, shows up. You say, well, why is it? Well, because the usual language is something caused let's call it anxiety. Something caused the anxiety. Instead of, oh, I noticed anxiety showing up inside of me. Notice we stripped the cause off of it. And the reason being is you're not at all sure about cause when it comes to anxiety or anything else inside the human brain or the human physiology. Stuff shows up, and we all know that. You wake up in the morning and you're anxious. There wasn't anything that happened to make you. I mean, maybe you got a test coming up or something. Okay, fine. But many of us are long past tests. We just wake up and we're anxious.
There you go.
Why? Now you could say, gee, why am I anxious, and come up with the reason why you are anxious. And research has shown you'll be wrong. ACT just takes the wrong out of it and just says, oh, I'm noticing anxiety has shown up. There's that show up language. And that helps you let go of cause and effect. So the show up language is the antithesis of the cause and effect language. So that's what you're going for. So when we do the lower left, you'll hear us say, well, what kind of yucky stuff shows up inside of you? And some of you may have been with us a few times and you heard us do that and it went right past you. And you might even start saying to people, well, what causes that anxiety to show up?
Oh, I've heard people say that, yes.
We're not worried about it
No.
at all. No, nada.
You don't have to take that on.
We just don't. We don't have to worry our little heads about that. It just shows up. Now, in the presence of that anxiety, that yucky stuff going on inside of us, we know that people want to take evasive action. They want to do something to lessen the anxiety. And that's not cause and effect. That's just, I want to do something to get rid of this toothache. I want to do something. And notice I'm not worried about what caused the toothache.
Nope.
I just want to get rid of the toothache.
Relevant. I want
Then I'm worried about what caused it. You know, I don't care. I want rid of it. Same with the anxiety. If I can get rid of your anxiety, you don't care about what the cause of it was. And so, once again, if people want to take a mechanistic view and try and figure out what caused it, fine. Just realize you switched over to mechanism. And now, can you switch back and forth? Well, of course you can.
Sure.
You can do that. But the upper left question is, well, what have you noticed yourself doing to lessen the yucky stuff? Well, I've noticed myself drinking. I've noticed myself jogging. I've noticed myself crying. I've noticed myself watching Netflix, all of these behaviors that the function is to decrease some yucky stuff. And notice we're looking at the function of a behavior. That's it, folks. That's ACT. ACT is looking at the function of behaviors. That's what it's about. And finally, we switch functions and we go to the upper right. And now we talk about, well, what do you do in the service of who's important to you? I.e., the function of the behavior is to enhance my relationship with who's important. Might be yourself. Okay, fine. Might be your wife, your spouse, husband, whatever. Friends, neighbors. You're enhancing. So what behaviors do I do to approach, to enhance that? And and then we use the word notice right in the middle. And we say, well, we're noticing all of that. And that's the essence of functional contextualism. We're not making judgments about it. We're noticing it. That's all we're doing. We're just noticing. Now you say, well, Kevin, what's the point of all of that? Learning. 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 That's what the point is. And what it is meaning if you observe all of that stuff, notice all of that stuff going on without judgment, without reservation, without stuff getting in the way. You purely just notice it. You will quickly learn what works. You'll learn what works for getting relief. You'll learn what works for getting satisfaction and approaching folks. You'll learn what works. And the stuff that doesn't work, that is the behaviors that don't work, well, you'll start giving them up. And then you'll say, well, you know what? I think I'm doing a little better. And
that's the process.
That's the whole process. That's it. I'm doing a little better. And in essence, it's a very accurate statement. I'm doing, I'm behaving, they're saying better, but I'm behaving more effectively. And this is what, and then you'll get into, there's people who say, oh my God, the left side's bad. Yeah, well, try and live a day without getting away from yucky stuff. We all do it. But what we want to do is do it well, efficiently. Get rid of the yucky stuff So we have plenty of time left over to get back over and pay attention to who's important to us, right? But nobody spends their whole life doing that. Yucky stuff is going to show up. You
Yep.
need to take evasive action. You need to do things to lessen the yucky stuff. But why not do stuff that's effective? And there you go. So when somebody might say, I have really bad anxiety. Well, what do? I take heroin. Oh, great. We write that down.
Yep.
Well, we would hope that over time that they notice that using heroin, it might be effective for getting rid of some kind of internal thing in the short run, but in the long run, there's a lot of baggage that comes with using heroin. Let's put it that way. That can really muck up your life. And what you want to get somebody into is a place where they can learn that's happening, and they'll reduce or even totally get rid of the use of heroin. I didn't tell them to stop using. And by the way, all substance abuse counselors, do the famous intervention, stop doing that. Just say no.
Knock it off.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Right. But we just bring people's attention to the true consequences of behavior. Consequences meaning the effectiveness of the behavior, the side effects of the behavior. But we're not talking about it. We're noticing it. And we'll finish up with this. If you talk about it, you just screwed it all up.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah.
And I know that people that like to talk a whole bunch really get miffed at that.
Oh, it's hard for them to lay off of the talking stuff.
Really hard. But talking, and Kahneman did a great job with this. The guy's named Daniel Kahneman, psychologist, Nobel Prize winner. He invented behavioral economics. And, smart guy. And he also wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Okay. Well, it's the thinking fast is where you learn, not thinking slow. And by definition, like these words that are coming out of my mouth are slow.
Yeah.
I can think at least 100 times faster than I can legibly, understandably speak words out my mouth. So talking is very slow thinking, and you're not going to learn very well. You just don't. And so it's tough. People who really like to talk a lot, but I'll bring my wife into the picture here. She really likes to talk a lot. She knows it. She said, but you know what? I learn a lot more when I just shut up and notice things. And that's it. If you come to that realization that, remember the peace, what is desiderata. Remember what peace there might be in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Silence and just noticing things, that doesn't mean you have to sit. You move about. You do things, and you notice what works. And that brings us to the end of functional contextualism, because we're looking at behaviors and noticing how they work for the life that we want. That's it. That's ACT. So you're getting somebody into a place where they're noticing their behaviors, consequences of the behaviors, and then they learn what behaviors work and which ones don't. They very naturally, it's called trimming. They trim off the behaviors that don't work, and they keep the behaviors that they do work, and voila, there you go. That's all about. That's all it's about. But notice that has nothing to do with fixing anything. The way of looking at things. And so that's why, that's the beginning of your journey, is to start, well, here's the easy way to do. Start using the show up language. And you can even work with somebody else. Somebody else will say, boy, that person really pissed me off. And you'll say, oh, so you noticed anger showing up. You just send them back.
Yeah. And they're going to say, yeah. I did.
Notice I said, so you noticed anger showing up. You can even say inside of you.
Yeah.
You noticed anger showing up inside of you. They'll go, that throws them introspective. They'll look inside themselves, metaphorically, and they'll go, oh, yeah, I did notice anger showing up. Oh, that's what you want.
Yep.
After many, many, many repetitions of that, you will become more of a noticer of what's going on inside of you, and you'll become more of a noticer about what's going on with others, and you will certainly learn to prompt people to notice. So they'll come at you with cause and effect language. It's very natural. We're not dissing on people's cause and effect. Can't get rid of it. But they'll say it like, she made me angry. He made me, anxious, whatever. And you'll go, oh, so you noticed yourself getting anxious. You notice anxiety showing up. So show up. That's the big, you'll see it. That's the biggie. And why is that? So you can notice it.
Yeah. Contemplate.
What am I supposed to do with it? Have it.
Yeah.
Because the instant that you try to not have it, you're going to have it more.
Like way of pushing away, right?
And if you think, what's he talking about? Remember, don't think about pink elephants.
Bingo.
Now you're thinking about pink elephants. You try not to think about something, you'll have it. If you try not to have anxiety, you'll have more anxiety. And so that's really the biggie, where in mechanism, you can replace things, fix things. It's mechanistics. It's things that you can feel. Inside your head, there's nothing you can get your hands on. And so the rules of mechanism no longer work. It's the rules of functional contextualism. Actually, it's contextualism was simply looking at behavior. Functional contextualism looks at the workability of behavior for the life that you want. Now, that does mean that basically you got to figure out what you want to do in life. That's called values and act. We don't use that word because it just leads to all kinds of trouble. Most of our work, Phil and I's work, was done with
people that were already experiencing difficulties, let's say.
A lot of difficulties, and
big time difficulties.
Any of them didn't appreciate the use of
They did not like that word at all.
No, I'm not saying all. There's a lot of them were fine with it, but a good 40–50% were not. And why spend our days arguing about that stuff when we could just say who's important to you, and they'd tell us and get going. So now, just to pause there, one thing people will do, because ACT seems really hard, you'll start teaching a terminology. So it's like, oh, values. I'm going to teach people what values are.
About values.
Yeah, committed actions. I want to teach people what committed actions are.
Well, let's do some diffusion stuff.
Yeah. That's mechanism, folks. It's not really. It's not this. ACT is based on the philosophy of functional contextualism. Just is. If you say, I don't like that, I don't want to do that, more power to you. Don't do that.
Don't do what you want to do.
We are not in any way, shape, or form trying to say, we're not even trying to say it works better for anything. What we are saying is that after talking to thousands of people about this, almost all of them, and I mean 99% of them, will say something like, yeah, things are a bit better. That's it. And that's because they're just viewing, they're learning new behaviors.
Yeah.
Things are better. They're doing better because they've returned to that learning. It's actually the learning that you use to learn how to talk with is a great way to think about it, in my opinion. Because before you could talk, well, You didn't do all this thinking, right? You didn't do that. Well, you could learn, obviously, and you could learn how to talk. Well, so if you shut up and use the learning that you use to learn how to talk, to learn how to do behaviors that work for the life that you want, it goes a lot easier.
The learning just happens.
Yeah. If you try to talk yourself into it, no.
No.
We're not. Obviously, I'm talking now. Phil's talking now. We're not saying you don't talk. Realize you're not going to get the answers through talking. But that's not what it's going to be. Show my wife's another. I'm quoting my wife today. She said, "Show people the Matrix and then get the heck out of the way."
Very sage advice by Miriam.
That like 10 years ago, and it still holds. Now that doesn't mean you can have a gap session about whatever. Fine.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Chat whatever you want to chat about.
But when it comes to learning behaviors that work for getting rid of your yucky stuff,
Yeah.
or lessening your yucky feelings, or increasing your satisfaction, talking ain't it.
Let go of the words at that point.
That's not how it works. By the way, and here we'll go. Like you're learning some new behavior, like driving a car, or riding a motorcycle, or flying a plane, or riding a horse, or
And the
anything
piano.
like, frisbee, anything, whatever. It doesn't really help much to talk all the time. You'll notice this. No, I am talking my way through learning how to drive. I just got to talk.
Try talking to yourself or trying to learn something like that.
Then you can talk like crazy after you learn how to drive. But when you're first doing it, you'll notice you shut right up.
Yep.
Why? Because you're noticing what works. You're noticing the behaviors that work to keep you alive. Many of those things, driving cars, flying planes, riding horses, they can get you killed. So you really got to shut up and pay attention to what you're doing. Other things, not so much, and you'll tend to talk more. So just something to keep about. So that's it, your journey. The whole thing's, in the end of the day, folks, if there's anybody left with us, there's quite a few, it's functional contextualism. That's it. You're shifting yourself and the people you're coaching or you're doing therapy with or just living with, you're helping them shift to this functional contextual view, which is nothing more than returning to learning how you learned how to talk. That's all.
Yeah.
And if you think, I can't really put words on what I use to learn how to talk.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Now you're in the ballpark. That's it.
Now you're feeling it. Now you're getting
it.
That's it. Yes, that's it exactly. There's no words for it.
You didn't have the words before the language came along. You learned them anyhow.
So this is where something you can do is go learn some skill, new thing to do, and be quiet and notice. It doesn't have to be dangerous. You could go. Phil likes disc golf.
Yeah.
Learn that. Go regular traditional golf or tennis or something. All of those. I mean, I don't know of very many. I used to teach a lot of tennis. I didn't see anybody being a chatty person.
Run around trying to get lined up to hit the ball back or
even like in the dojo.
Oh my God! Oh,
not chatty.
There was no time for talking there.
They're a boxing ring, Well, as a matter of fact, people that talk a bunch of boxing usually get whacked.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's fun. So we use talking. We like talking. We like talking just fine. It's just not a great way of learning things. So it's funny because psychotherapy is based on, verbal analysis. It's called verbal analysis.
Yeah.
What it's called. And you'll reach a conclusion. I have a conclusion. drinking's not good for me. It won't change the behavior whatsoever. So, it's not usually. No, it's usually that. So that's it. It's fun. It's real. And then once you get to doing this, it's fun. And then it becomes very easy. Like people ask us, well, you have these different courses you have. You click on the box and you see the different, we just use slightly different language to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Act for anxiety is really much act for depression or for anything else. It's just different ways of using the language that people are saying and shifting them into this functional contextual view. Worthy thing to do, because as you do it with them, you'll do it to yourself, and you'll wake up going, oh, I think things are better.
Yeah.
Things are matriculating just as they should.
They're doing what they need to be doing.
Matriculating is something that a joke between Phil and I. There's a famous football coach that said, the offense just needed to keep matriculating down the field.
Yeah. Keep moving that ball down the field, boys.
Which was an iffy use of the word.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But you know what? He got his point across. We knew what he meant.
Yeah, everybody.
By the way, if you want a word, it's usually used in education. Matriculating through a degree program.
Yeah, matriculating. Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, and you'll notice life is unfolding. It's interesting, and it's not always great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm noticing things aren't going so hot right now.
Your loved ones get sick, you get sick.
Yeah.
People get hurt, people die.
Part of the deal.
Yeah, well, ain't no fun.
Nope.
But keep learning from your behaviors. It's pretty good. That way you don't have to be rich, you don't have to be poor. You don't have to have high social standing or low social standing.
Nope.
Anything like that. It's simply looking at your behaviors, how they work for the life that you want. Which is always about other people, by the way. So it's always about other people.
And you highly related to
Who's important? At the end of the day, it always comes back to who's important to you.
Here.
Always does. So, that's why we use who's important to you, by the way. We long ago learned. That's the core thing. As a matter of fact, if you sort of feeling lost and you're not feeling like have the mojo of functional contextualism, just remind yourself who's important to you.
Instant reset.
Instant reset. We call that the reset. Gee, who's important to me? Oh, yeah. Okay. You're in. Now you're reset. So that's good. We encourage you. Now, what we do, and what we have a lot of fun with, is certifying people to do this stuff. And if you have a need for certification and you have a need for 19 hours of CEU credits, it's a great deal that we put together. That you save $374. And by the way, the matrix certification, you can do that this year, next year, whatever.
You work at your own pace.
You work at your own, it's your thing. So don't worry about that. Of the 19 CEUs, maybe you need them for that license you have up on the wall.
License pool thing. That just went through not too long ago.
That is a mechanistic kind of thing, because if you don't get your CEUs, they'll take it away from you.
Got to tip your hat to the mechanism there. You're not getting rid of a mechanism.
No, I define as you float between functional contextualism and mechanism. Once you get the hang of this, folks,
Piece of cake.
It's all a lot easier.
Yeah.
It really is.
Piece of cake.
So we will sign off now, and we will be back sometime next week.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a free time, and we'll do an intermediate. We're doing a beginning. So the beginning is what we just did. Who's important? What's your yucky stuff? What kind of relief moves do you do? What kind of satisfaction moves do you do? Notice.
Yep.
Keep doing that. And next week we'll pick up and we'll show you how to do the intermediate level,
Oh yeah.
which only takes about 4 minutes to show you. So we'll have to talk. We'll have to pattern what.
Yeah, there'll be more words added onto that.
Anyway, we'll see you guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye now.